If a hardware firewall is a box that sits on the edge of your network and protects you from the internet, a software firewall is a program that sits on your individual hosts and, well, basically protects everybody from you. So in this episode, I want to talk about software firewalls. Software firewalls are programs that sit on individual hosts and monitor the network traffic coming in and out of that particular host. Now, they can be configured a lot of different ways. Every operating system has software firewalls. There's no exception to that. But I'm going to be using Windows Firewall mainly because the A+ talks about that quite a bit. So in this particular example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Windows 10 firewall. Now, don't worry if you're curious about Windows Firewall and earlier versions of Windows. Well, they all work pretty much exactly the same way. So let's dive into Windows Firewall. So to get to Windows Firewall, go into Control Panel. Ooh, Category View, I hate that. Let me go to Large Icons. Okay, here it is right here, Windows Firewall. Now, when you start up Windows Firewall, the first thing you're going to see is domain networks, private networks, guest or public networks. The Windows Firewall is a very powerful tool, and it recognizes that your computer may connect to different kinds of networks. My laptop, for example, sometimes I'm here at the office and I log into my domain, or sometimes at my house, which is a private network, or sometimes I'm trying to do stuff from a completely wide open Wi-Fi connection at an airport. And the Windows Firewall says things are going to act different depending on where you are. And what you're looking at here is a feature of the Windows Firewall that says, depending on where you are, I will change my firewall settings. So let's take a look at this. So first of all, it sees that I'm connected to a domain right now, but it has some basic settings. Number one, when I'm connected to a domain, make sure the firewall's turned on. The next thing it says is block all incoming connections that are not on the list of allowed apps, and I promise you I'm going to show you that in a minute. That's called an exception. I'll show you what that means. The name of the domain network I'm connecting to, and then the notification state which says, notify me when Windows Firewall blocks something. So that's good, and that's pretty much a standard setting. I believe on this system I pretty much got it all exactly the same way. And I do. So basically what I've told the firewall is I say turn on, block everything incoming unless I have this little special rule called an exception, and if somebody tries to do something naughty, let me know. So with that understanding, what I'd like to do now is show you a little bit more depth in here. So let's take a look. So we can change notification settings, which I like to know what's going on. I can turn the firewall on or off, and there are reasons to do that sometimes. I can mess it up so bad I have to click on Restore Defaults. I've done that a time or two. And then we can go into Advanced Settings, and that's the one I really want to show you. So let's click on that. Now, here in Advanced Settings, basically it lets me know this main screen, but that's boring. What's interesting is up here on the left. You'll see where it says Inbound Rules and Outbound Rules. The thing you've got to remember about a software firewall is that it is running on this computer. And unlike a hardware firewall, this software firewall can actually see the names of the programs that are trying to receive stuff from the network or send stuff out. So that is an aspect of software firewalls that you'd never see on a hardware firewall. We can actually block or allow access based on the name of the program that's trying to do stuff. So let's scroll through and take a look. First of all, let's take a look at inbound rules. Now, when we talk about inbound rules, we're talking about these are programs that are trying to get stuff in from the internet. So we can take a look at a few of these. Now, here's my TechSmith Camtasia Studio. This is actually the program I use to capture the screen. So you'd say to yourself, why is there a firewall rule for that? Isn't it just capturing stuff? Well, maybe Camtasia has updating things or something like that. But let's go in and take a look at this guy. So we're going to go into the properties. Now, right here it says protocols and ports, and what this is doing is that it says we're opening up port 8317. I have no idea what's happening on port 8317 other than TechSmith Camtasia Studios wants to have incoming ports. I can almost guarantee you that is for there's a new version of TechSmith. Would you like to download it now kind of a thing? So the other place to look is under Programs and Services, and it says any program. So he's opened this up for just about anything, which makes it a little risky, but it's okay to do that. So we've got this port open. Now, that is one type of exception. This is something that says, allow this guy to accept incoming. What I want to do now is do this again, and I've got this thing called a Samsung uninstaller. So let's take a look at his properties. So when you take a look at the properties here, if we click on protocols and ports, whoops. If we click on protocols and ports, you'll see that it's allowing anything to happen under UDP. So that's really, it's not doing anything is what's happening here. Let's take a look under programs and services, and you'll see what's happening is it's actually specifying a very specific program. And in this particular case, it's an uninstaller. I'm going to have to check that out in more detail. I do have a Samsung printer, and all of this got put in probably during the installation of that Samsung printer itself. So be aware that that particular type of option is there. So we can do open up on port numbers. We can open up by actually the name of the program itself. So if you take a little quick scroll down through here, you're going to see I've got zillions of exceptions that are set up for this particular system, and that's just on the inbound. Now clicking on outbound, keep in mind outbound is stuff that's trying to phone home. I can see lots and lots and lots. This is almost kind of scary, the number of exceptions that are set up. I got Xbox. I don't even have an Xbox on this system. Thanks, Microsoft Windows 10. The important thing that you need to know here is that you will rarely, if ever, set up your own exceptions. In most cases, what you'll do is you will try to run some program that's doing something naughty. And Microsoft's going to go, hey, this program's doing something naughty. What do you want me to do about it? And just for fun, I brought a naughty program along. So what I have here is a program called FreeSSH. FreeSSH is a Telnet and SSH server. So what I'll do is I'll install it on this computer right here, and then I can run a Telnet client and connect to this machine from far away. So this is something I do a lot. Okay, so I've gone ahead and run the installation and not much has happened, but watch this. There you go. What you're looking at right here is the firewall popping up saying, hey, somebody's trying to do something on the network. Is this something you want to allow happen? So what we're doing by hitting allow access, we are creating an exception. So you'll also notice that it says, where is this exception taking place? Just when I'm logged into the domain, or on my private network, or in public. Now, for me, because I'm actually going to run this not only when I'm logged on here at the domain, but when I'm in my house at my private network, I'm checking both of those. However, on a public network, I want the firewall to go ahead and block these ports. So let's hit allow access. And we have now opened up some port numbers. So let's take a look at how FreeSSH is set up for the moment. And what I'm going to do is I've got my Telnet and my SSH server running. So I've got inbound ports 23 and 22. So let's take a look at the firewall itself, and we should see two new rules there. So I'm going to go straight to advanced settings. I'm going to look at my inbound rules, and there they are. So these are my two rules that I've generated, one for SSH and one for Telnet, that says allow incoming port 22 and allow incoming port 23. So that's the basics of a software firewall. The most important thing I can tell you about a software firewall is it's a good idea to come in here every now and then and take a look at stuff. It's amazing how easy it is for you to set exceptions on things that you didn't normally actually want. Now, while we're talking about this, one of the problems we have with firewalls in general is that when I've got a firewall, its job is to block stuff. Well, that's great, but there's also a case where I would like to not only have you tell me that I have an intrusion, somebody coming in or doing something I don't want, but I'd also like the idea of someone being able to prevent an intrusion. And that's where the term IDS and IPS come into play. IDS, or Intrusion Detection System, is designed to detect something naughty happening and let you know about it. So like in the case of this software firewall, a pop-up would come up or something to let me know. Don't confuse that with Intrusion Prevention System. With an IPS, not only does it detect an intrusion, but it will do something about it in real time. So for example, if something naughty is happening here on incoming port 22, An IDS will pop up and say, hey, this is happening, but an IPS will actively stop it, usually by shutting down the port. Make sure you're comfortable with the difference of IDS versus IPS.